In today's show, the Blazers come away from the NBA draft with Scoot Henderson, a future star, and also an uncertain future. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. Make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we made it to the other side of the NBA draft. The Blazers got Scoot Henderson third, Kris Murray at 23, and Rayan Rupert at 43. What they didn't do is make the big trade. That's what we're going to talk about in today's show. Scoot, a generational talent, potentially. I mean, like a 19-year-old with upside, as he currently stands, but potentially a generational talent. But not the big swing. I don't want it to get lost in this episode. I want to say it up top so it doesn't really get lost in this episode. I think drafting Scoot Henderson, period, end of sentence, is awesome. It's cool. I think he's a really fun personality. I think he's going to be a really good player in the league. I do not want to get lost in sort of the angst of where Blazers fans are right now coming out of this draft about that anything beyond Scoot Henderson, like there's other stuff beyond Scoot Henderson, but in sort of the very, very, very specific world of drafting Scoot Henderson, the narrow truth of they got Henderson with the third overall pick. It's tight. It's cool. Scoot is by most accounts, the second best player in the draft. I think some people had him as low as 3, but plenty of smart people had him clearly in the second tier, or that top of that next tier beyond Victor Wembanyama. There was going to be nobody up there with Wemby. He is the all-time prize, but Scoot was considered a very, very good player, someone who would have gone, first overall in 4 out of 5 drafts, or at least in the very, very top of every draft over the last 5 years or so. That good. Someone with all NBA upside, it projects as like a multi-time all-star and perhaps a foundational part of a very good team, like a star point guard in the league. This is like someone who gets compared to Derrick Rose MVP level and young Russell Westbrook and Ja Morant and like the truly special, freakishly athletic lead guards in the league who get into the paint whenever they want, mitigate some of their jumper concerns by just being a beast. So don't get it twisted. Coming away with Scoot Henderson is a victory. But I forgive you if it doesn't feel like that. Because this was supposed to be the draft where the Blazers picked their destination, picked their direction. Pick their direction. They were going to follow Damian Lillard's very clearly specified preferences. I'm done with 19-year-olds, that's enough for 19-year-olds. I don't want to build. That route is not my route. Dame couldn't be more clear in public settings that he wanted the Blazers to make a swing for veteran talent to go for it and be competitive. Scoot Henderson might be really good, but it is very, very rare for even the best rookies to be good right away. Most players, particularly youngsters coming to the league, I think Scoot will be 20 when the season starts. But like young players typically struggle. They're typically net negatives. You're banking on Scoot being really good in years 2 through 10. But year 1, he was probably going to be someone learning the ropes. It just is kind of how the league works. It wouldn't be uncommon for someone to be a star but not be very good in year 1. And that is kind of Dame's angst, is that he doesn't want to build, he doesn't want to wait, he doesn't want to get to the next thing. He wants the next thing to come to him so they can be competitive right away. But it sounds like the deals just weren't out there. According to Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports, teams cooled on offering trade packages for Toronto's Pascal Siakam because it came pretty clear that Pascal Siakam wasn't going to re-sign somewhere where he was traded for. He prefers to be in Toronto, and after he's entering free agency next summer, so trading a haul for Pascal Siakam only to let him walk without that wink handshake that he's going to re-sign, there's no reason to trade a haul for him. You just don't do it. It cools the trade market. Andrew Greif of the LA Times reported that the Blazers had been in on Paul George and then decided to walk away. The talks broke down. My read on that is that the Clippers said, yeah, no problem. You can trade for Paul George. We're going to need Anthony Simons. We're going to need Shaedon Sharpe. We're going to need the third pick in the draft, which was the trade package that I floated a couple days ago on the podcast. Obviously, that's too big of an overpay, so they walked away from that. That isn't like real. That's my speculation, but I'm willing to wager that's why the talks broke down. The Zion Williamson stuff probably had legs a little bit, but was Zion truly available, and what was the asking price, and could they make it work? And did the Blazers want some other sweeteners for taking on the risk of the giant contract and all of those things? The talks fell apart, and when you're looking for the elite of the elite, it's a pretty narrow window. According to Zach Lowe of ESPN, the Nets were not interested in the package of 3 and Anthony Simons for Mikal Bridges. Quite frankly, let me just put my cards on the table here. I think that's wild. I think the Nets should have taken that pick. I think that's like a pretty aggressive overpay from the Blazers for Mikal Bridges. The Nets should have done that, but they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it, and they didn't want to do it for obvious reasons, because if they don't do it, it greatly increases the chances of the next thing happening. That Damian Lillard asks out. And I don't think drafting Scoot and then drafting Kris Murray at 23, and then, the second round pick doesn't really matter in this conversation, but we'll say it anyways, drafting the 43, Rayan Rupert, but like bringing 3 rookies in, not making any trades for vets, not sending out, not making any moves. It doesn't necessarily guarantee a Damian Lillard trade. In fact, Joe Cronin said as much in his post-draft press conference that we'll talk about a little bit in the second segment. The moves they made tonight do not guarantee a Damian Lillard trade. They do not guarantee it. But they are the exact moves you would make at the beginning of a rebuild. You see what I'm saying here? This is not set in stone, clear direction, the path to going young. But if they were taking the path to go young, this is exactly what you would have done. This is the path you would have taken. This is the exact way you would have gone. If you were... The Blazers have been clear that they don't want to trade Damian Lillard. But the actions in the draft suggested the team that said, we couldn't find the deal. The market dictated that we couldn't find a deal good enough to make the call. And Dame has said, if they don't make a swing, I want to leave. Or he hasn't said I want to leave. He said that he will have the conversation about what his future is, which is saying he wants to leave. I don't know that tonight guarantees that Dame's exit will come in the next 6 weeks. But I know that if Dame's exit were coming in the next 6 weeks, the night would have looked exactly the same. Let's talk about Joe Cronin's comments in the second segment. Hold on. I actually don't want to transition to the second segment in a bummer. Scoot Henderson's going to be really good. Hold on to that. Scoot Henderson's going to be really good. He's going to be really good. I'm telling you. I'm also telling you about Birddogs. They're comfortable shorts. They really are. They're comfortable shorts. If they kind of look like khakis, but they're not khakis because they're cloud knit fabric that stretches and fits you so you look great, you feel great, and they're truly versatile. They're not like the stiff, restricting cotton of your sort of typical summer shorts. They're stretch khakis designed to fit slimmer through your thigh, make your legs look good, and they got anti-stink sweat wicking technology that has fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Birddogs was kind enough to send us over a couple pairs of shorts. I rock them all the time. They're comfortable. They're versatile. I don't have the type of job where you could wear shorts to work, but these shorts look good. You don't look like a schlub when you wear them, but you could still like go and be active in them. I've mentioned a bunch of times that I'm out in my neighborhood doing things, being a dad, pushing the stroller around, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't you get a pair of comfortable, versatile shorts? Go to birddog.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. I promise you. Still a Passbirds point guard. That's how I lead into my third segment, but we'll just do it here in the second one too. All right, let's talk about Joe Cronin's comments. He addressed reporters after the draft, and Cronin was emphatic. He does not want to trade Damian Lillard. He does not plan to trade Damian Lillard. He hopes that Damian Lillard retires as a Trailblazer, and that's if you're only reading the quotes as written. I will say this. I thought the Blazers local media did a good job pressing and being strong with asking tough questions to Joe Cronin. I thought throughout the press conference, his defenses kind of wore down. They got him against the ropes. He took some body shots. And he sounded like a dude who was aware that there is a big conversation coming with Damian Lillard and Aaron Goodwin and Goodwin Sports Management and the whole Damian Lillard posse, his representation, etc., etc. It is, the gang's gonna chat because Dame has been very clear about his preferences, and Joe Cronin, I don't know if he didn't deliver. Maybe he was unable to deliver. The market sort of dictates it, right? But the market dictating it sounds a lot like the last 10 years of Damian Lillard's career. We just couldn't get it done. Trades don't happen in a vacuum. Got to do all these things. When asked how can Scoot and Dame play together, Cronin kind of waffled and said, "I think so, but not a strong yes, absolutely." When asked how can you go forward with Damian Lillard and Avery Simons and Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe, 4 guards in the backcourt, how could you do it? How could it happen? He didn't sound super strong. He sounded like someone who had made some decisions that I'm going to add the best player available and I'm going to figure it out. And now he's in the stage of figuring it out, and figuring out includes having a tough conversation about the future of the franchise. It's a tough post-draft press conference when they don't ask you about the 2 other dudes you drafted. A little bit about Scoot Henderson's fit and a lot about Damian Lillard's future. Sounded kind of like Joe Cronin did this. That's Oops All Guards. Commissioned by me and sent in by listener Julio. Oops All Guards, yet again. Oops All Guards. If you're listening on the audio feed, check out the YouTube channel for that image. Or if you know me, I'll text you the image. I think Cronin getting Scoot. I think Cronin was asked looking for the big splash move, and Cronin said to fans looking for the big splash move, I'll say I did the biggest one they can. We got Scoot Henderson. I think that's true. I think it's true. I think Scoot's going to be really good in the league. I think he's going to be easy to root for. I think he's going to be fun. But some of this what's next questions took a real hit after the draft. And I think that Cronin was pressed on this. Well, you didn't trade your first-round pick. You didn't trade the other first-round pick you have. You didn't unlock your future picks necessarily with assets you currently have. You are now a week away from free agency where you will not have cap space. And even if you try to create meaningful cap space, there's not exactly like game-changing free agent on the market. In fact, one of the best free agents on the market is your own Jeremy Grant. And you're better operating as an above the cap team and just keeping him on the roster if you're going to go that route. He was pressed on what assets do you have left if you didn't make any moves to get better. He said, we got a bunch. We still got chances to make moves in free agency and all that. And it's like, do you? He was asked whether he felt like he was in danger of losing Damian Lillard, and Joe Cronin said that he didn't feel like he was, and he felt like his intention is still to keep Dame on the roster and move forward and be good. But the strength in we've reached the portion of the summer that is show don't tell. This was the evening that they were supposed to pick a path. This was the evening that they were supposed to pick a direction. And whether they were unable or unwilling is probably in the eyes of the beholder. But I'll tell you what, they did not pick a direction. And sort of the unfortunate truth of the NBA is that their direction might be chosen for them. I don't know that Damian Lillard, like I said, and I'll reiterate here, that I don't know that Damian Lillard's getting traded next week. I don't even know. I would assume if it happens, though, it will happen before the season starts. So I think it'll get taken care of this summer if that's the direction they end up going. I don't think the Blazers will trade Dame for a chump deal, but I do think they will help him go where he wants to go if that's the direction it happens. And I think after watching Joe Cronin's presser, I don't feel deeply confident that there is a reasonable path to the future with Damian Lillard. There is a future where they just have to tell Dame, there's no good package for you. Can you hang out till February? I don't think it's going to get messy in public and gross where Dame says, I'm out of here. But it is not set up for the celebration, for the kazoos and the parade down Broadway and getting your spot outside of El Gaucho to watch the float come by. It is set up for angst. And I didn't want this. Not because I feel deeply compelled about the future of the Trailblazers or that they pull on my heartstrings. And I don't mean that to brag or to talk down to someone whose heartstrings are pulled by this team. I just mean that I was hoping that we would get some clarity. And I think what we got some clarity is that it might get gross in the future. Joe Cronin said there's avenues to get better. And Joe Cronin said very, very clearly that he wants Damian Lillard to be part of what's next. And he wants Dame to retire as a Trailblazer. But to me, that's a Rorschach test. If you want to hear that as the truth, you can look at the ink and you can see that. But that's not what I saw. It's not what I heard. I didn't want to do this show. I mean, I was going to do a podcast, but I didn't want to do this topical of a show. I wanted to celebrate. So let's celebrate one more time. Scoot Henderson's going to rock. He wore the coolest suit to the draft. It was covered in jewels. He's got 6 siblings. He was one of 7 kids, and he had stones and jewels with the birthstones of his siblings built into his suit. He wore a pinky ring to rep the G League. He wore steel-toed boots. He wore 2 chains, including an H7 chain. That's Henderson 7 for his siblings, that all of his siblings got because his dad purchased them matching chains. He wore a grill with a whole bunch of rainbow colors in it. He sat down and he said, "I'm here to save the day" in a Zoom interview. He is fun, and he's going to be a very good player in this league. I'm comfortable saying that. So for me, for now, I guess I'm grasping for positivity. I really think I am, because this felt like the Cronin presser made me feel like the end is nigh of the Damian Lillard era more than other stuff has, because he wasn't firm. He was not firm. He got a little shaky, and when he got pressed about how this looks like it's heading in the wrong way, I don't think he really steered the boat back to a place where I'm like, all right, yeah, they're on track. If you heard something different, I'm sure you'll let me know some way, somehow. But to me, I'm going to try to find some appreciation and some fun, because unequivocally getting Scoot at 3 when Brandon Miller went 2 to Charlotte is a win for the Blazers, is a good deal, is a good news for the Blazers to get a player that good at 3. The way that small markets get good is they draft stars. The Blazers may have just drafted themselves a star. The path to what's next might get a little rocky, but they might have drafted themselves a star, and I'm going to choose to hold on to that. Let's talk about the 2 other guys they drafted to close the show. Darn. Quite frankly, darn. Before we get to that third segment, though, I want to tell you about Gametime. It's a place to get last-minute tickets. Instead of stressing about tickets or trying to make plans and all that, just use Gametime, because it's the number one spot to get tickets right up to the day of the event for all of your sports needs, for concerts, for live comedy, for live theater, whatever it is. What I like about Gametime is they got flash sales. So if you're looking for something like, I want to go to the game, it's, say it's Sunday evening, I want to go to this game on Monday night, you can go to Gametime, download the app or go to gametime.co, and they will have a deal for you right sitting there that's that is cheaper than you will find most other places. And in fact, if you find a better deal somewhere else in the same row, in the same section for less money, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. You can make a little money if you find a cheaper deal than they're offering. So snag tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use that redemption code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. I play PrizePicks on the phone on my app, but you can play it on PrizePicks.com as well. Here's how it works. You pick between 2 and 6 players, and if they go over or under these projections set, you pick if they're going to go over or under the projection set by PrizePicks. If you get them right, you can win 25 times your money. You go 6 for 6, you're winning a whole bunch of cash. You're not competing against other people. It's just you versus the statistical projections set by PrizePicks. They offer everything. I played the NBA during an NBA season, but this summer you can play the WNBA, you can play soccer across the globe, MLS included. You can play tennis as we get going, plus a whole bunch of other sports. PrizePicks sets the line. You go over or under those lines, you win some money, and you can make entries in 60 seconds. Super easy. When you win, you get safe and fast withdrawals so you can get your money quickly. So download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com. Sign up today to play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKED ON. If you deposit $100, you get $100. You deposit $50, you get $50. Sounds pretty simple to me. So don't forget, use that promo code LOCKED ON. Sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Portland didn't just get Scoot, and Portland didn't just muddy the waters of Damian Lillard's future. They also picked 2 other players. At 23, they took Kris Murray, who played 3 seasons at Iowa. The 6'7" forward, averaged 20 points and 7.9 boards last season at Iowa. As a freshman, he didn't do much. As a sophomore, didn't do much. Then he took on a much larger role in his 3rd season at Iowa, and he was really stinking good. He is the twin brother of Keegan Murray. The only difference? I mean, there's a bunch of differences, but the main difference, he's left-handed. Keegan Murray's right-handed, he's left-handed. I've heard him described as something like 70% as talented as Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray was a contributor as a rookie on a team that won 50-plus games, finished 3rd in the West, and took the Warriors to 7 games in the playoffs. And Murray played really well at the end of that Warriors series. And didn't play well at the beginning of the playoffs, played really well at the end of that Warriors series. He had 70% of that at the 23rd pick. That's tight. That's extremely good. I think I have seen Kris Murray play 1 full game watching Keegan Murray last year at Iowa, but I've done a little bit of research heading into the show. Sounds like he's probably a better defender right now than his brother, than Keegan, but not nearly the level of shooter. I mean, what makes Keegan Murray special is that he can shoot off movement, he can shoot a little bit on pull-ups, he can shoot from mid-range. Like that's his skill. He's a really good shooter in the league. Sounds like Kris Murray is not quite that, but a better defender. He's not a great athlete, and I think this Keegan the same way. He's not like a leaper type athlete, but the athleticism is the balance, right? It's like a big frame, the balance to get past people, the balance to finish around the rim. I think the upside with Kris Murray is that he's 23 years old and he could probably contribute early. Banking on any rookie, even at 23, to be like, oh, plug and play, no problem, he'll be ready to go, is probably unfair. But like, just because of the physical development, it's like he'll probably be closer and ready faster than, say, your average rookie. You could probably bank on him being at some point a level of positive contributor early in his career, just more so than you could your typical rookie. If the Blazers are truly going to go the veteran routes and they're going to re-sign Jeremy Grant and they're going to blah, 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 it's like, and keep Dame on the roster and all those things, I think Kris Murray fits because they have holes to fill in at forward spots. Like they're thin up front. And if Murray is more of a 3 than a 4, there's minutes at the 3 to be had. And if he's more the 4 than a 3, there's minutes at the 4 to be had. If he is capable of playing, there's opportunity for him to seize right there. And if you can get a plug and play guy at 23, there's real value there. Not sure, I'll kind of withhold after I see him a little bit in summer league, et cetera, whether I think he's like plug and play 20 minutes a night or whatever. But Keegan Murray was pretty much ready to go. He was also drafted in the high lottery as opposed to at 23. But I think in general, this was kind of the range that folks had Kris Murray in. ESPN mocked him at 23 to the Blazers. In Sam Vecini's draft rankings on his big board, he had Kris Murray at 17. Over at the Ringer, they had him on the big board at 20, at the 27th best prospect. And at Rafael Barlow's NBA big board, he had him ranked as a 30th best prospect. So somewhere from the teens to the end of the first round, the Blazers got him at 23, kind of right in his typical range. I had listed him as a target I was intrigued by at 23. It's just like a dude who does a bunch of things well on offense and is a competent defender and is the right size to be a position of need for the Blazers. Sign me up. I'm intrigued by his game, while admitting that like it's more fun to get a 19-year-old that you can project to be like the king of the world by 23, as opposed to a 23-year-old who's like, yeah, he's a pretty good basketball player. I bet he'll help. Guess what? Most of those 19-year-olds turn out to be on that end of the, I hope they'll help, than the king of the world. Although Scoot's going to be the king of the world. Don't worry. At 43, the Blazers took Rayan Rupert. He's French. He's from the same area as Nico Batum, but he played last year for the New Zealand Breakers, playing professional basketball as an 18-year-old. He's 19 now. He's 6'6", 6'7", he's got a 7'2" wingspan. I saw him listed at 6'6" with a 7'2" wingspan. The Blazers gave out little, player sheets, and they called him 6'7" with the 7'3" wingspan. So you want to let's just lean bigger, right? Let's just lean bigger. Fine, he's 6'7", 7'3" wingspan, whatever the Blazers say. 8'10" standing reach, according to Sam Vecini of The Athletic. Really good defender. That's the guy he is. He's a really aggressive on-ball defender, someone who gets after it defensively and like takes pride in being good on defense. His weakness is that he is just unpolished on offense. He's not much of a shooter, which is like kind of always the knock on guys at this level. But I think more than that, it's like, what else? What is his big skill on offense? Like, he can make some moves around pick and rolls, but does he have like playmaking and ISO scoring, and like can he be like an on-ball-y type guard? And if he can't shoot, can he be an off-ball player? I think there's real questions with his offense, but he has the physical frame and the defensive upside to be a special player, and a bunch of folks had him in that first-round range. Rafael at NBA Big Board had him at 22. The Ringer had him at 41, the middle of the second round. He went at 43, but Sam Vecini had him at 34. ESPN had him at 26. So late first to early second, that's kind of where he was. Or I guess it's late first to mid second with 41. But like, first round talent in a bunch of different services. I think there's reason to be excited about his sort of general upside. Seems relatively unlikely to be a contributor right away, just because of his age and because of the sort of rawness of his game, it sounds like, just reading it. Also, like most second-round picks, it's hard to find just like NBA players as a second-rounder, much less like NBA players who are positive contributors in year one. So I would assume that he's like probably not part of the plan, but really intriguing 19-year-old with upside, like 6'7" guardy type. He's probably positionless, like in the way the league works, like 6'7", not big man, wing guard, with 8'10" standing reach and a 7'2", 7'3" wingspan, like crazy long arms and really competitive defender. That's an intriguing player to put into the mix. I mentioned with Kris Murray, like if the Blazers if the Blazers go the sort of veteran route, which seems exceedingly unlikely as I sit here today, then there'll be spots for him. I don't think there's a spot for Rayan Rupert if they go that route. But for both guys, if they go young, there's no problem. You don't have to. There's no calculation. If they go go young and they're launching a rebuild, play rookies, give them minutes, give them developmental minutes. Try to get the most out of your picks. The future of the NBA, and Joe Cronin mentioned this, he mentioned this in his presser, is like, you got to nail draft picks because it is punitive to have really expensive contracts. If the Blazers nailed 3 draft picks, regardless of the direction they go, they're going to be in really good shape. I'm really excited about Scoot. I think Kris Murray can be someone who contributes early in his NBA career, and Rayan Rupert is a really fun player to take a flyer on at 43. On the draft alone, if just in a vacuum, the draft by itself, I like what the Blazers did. I like the picks they made. I don't think Murray screams crazy upside, but like competent NBA player, that's what you're headed for, right? Like that's like what you're trying to find in the draft. And he looks like he's closer to that than maybe some others. Scoot has star upside, and Rupert, has someone who's like second rounder who has first round type talent. on its own, I think the draft was good and it's reason to be like excited. The other stuff and the big questions will get answered in the coming weeks. I'll do my best to answer them right here on the show. Come back next week. We'll do a bunch more of these. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the show. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.